Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again if you've come here before. And if you're new, welcome to you as well. And it's nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming along and having a look at this kit review of a new kit that I've recently acquired. You'll see in front of you a Gloucester E2839 Pioneer, which is the first special hobby kit that I acquired, so I'm quite new to them, and the second one is I go from 1/48 scale up to 1/32 scale with the Tempest Mk2 from Special Hobby. Forgive the Mr. on lights there. Some of that will mean something to some of you, but perhaps not to others. This is the kit we're going to look at today. It's a Tempest Mk2, one of Hawker's finer aircraft, I would say, and I've been doing a little bit of research into this, and it looks extremely interesting, I would have to say. What I have done here is written a Substack piece that I've linked in the description so that you can take a look at that for yourself, in which I talk in a little bit more detail about the aircraft. On the video today, we're going to look predominantly at the plastic and the instructions and what comes with the kit. And as you can see, they call this a high-tech kit, and so it has some extra bits and pieces on it, which is terribly exciting. I'll also go into what other kits are available in this particular series as well that are quite relevant to this here Tempest. So let's get the Mr.ons out of the way. I'll get the box top out of the way, and whilst I do, by the way, and we'll bring the main box in, just wanted to say to the people here who were here for the first time, once again, thanks very much for coming along, if you are coming along for the first time. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, just hit the subscribe button. I guess it appears in the bottom right hand corner. That goes a long way to helping me and costs you nothing, and would give you a notification that perhaps I'm bringing out another video. So if you did like this one and you looked at a few minutes of it, thanks very much. Hit the subscribe button, thanks, and I'd be delighted to see you. And by the way, feel free to write something in the comments, ask any questions. If you spot something I've said wrong, then for goodness sake let me know, because it's the only way I'm going to learn. Let me put it like that. So here we are, a Tempest Mk2 on the from the Special Hobby company, with a what's called a high-tech variant. So what's different about the high-tech variant? Well, actually it comes with quite a lot more bits and pieces to it. I think perhaps slightly differently to normal, we'll look at the instructions in a minute and then draw out various things, but I'm going to show you what comes in the kit to start with. So when you take the lid off, this is what you're presented with effectively, and I haven't really done anything to take anything out of the top. So what you get is this, let's move that back out there. You get this little cardboard thing which has a double task actually, really. It protects the plastic from getting onto the photo etch and all the other bits and pieces, but it also protects your decals, which I think is a particularly good idea. Now these are stapled on up at the top here, but you can see the all of these decals here. I may attempt to make painted markings for this particular kit. I think they look much better, and we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit. So you've got the decals there. You've also got the decals for the numbering and the markings. So you've got, for example, MW744 there, and there's PR533. By the way, PR533, that's quite interesting. That's restoration of that particular aircraft has finished now, or finished in the later part of last year. It took its maiden flight last year, and guess what? It's the only Tempest Mk2 to be flying anywhere in the world right now, and it's here in good old Blighty. I know there are some Tempests overseas. Mr. Kermit Weeks has two. He has a Mk2 and a Mk5. But I'm particularly pleased that PR533 is in this country. You get the decals, as I said. You also get a mask set. So this is a kabuki paper mask set that you can see here. You get something else here. I don't quite know what that is, I have to say. Let's just zero in so you can see this. It's something, but I know not what. I'm not really clear on that. I'd have to take that out of the packet, and maybe we'll investigate that in a little bit. But there we go. So we'll zero back out again. So we've got the decals for, and these are printed by, it says here, actually interestingly, it says printed by Edouard. And you've got the decals for the markings here, the roundel markings in a number of colours. I don't know quite which Air Force that is. I can soon find out. This is, let's have a look. This is currently being restored to original condition. Let's have a quite Royal RAF. I don't know which Royal Air Force that is, but it's could it be? I don't know. Someone will tell me. Some expert on these things in modelling land will tell me. Do please. But there are, as I say, there are 3 variants. We'll come to that in a minute. You've got placards and markings that go across the thing. So it's quite a significant amount of decals you've got. We'll have a look at them in a short while. There's also some photo etch here, some runners and riders. Some of these things here are seatbelt straps and buckles here, for example. You can see those there. That will add a significant amount of detail into this, and that's very nice to see. There are also paper seatbelts as well, by the way, tucked away somewhere in amongst this. So this cardboard thing has a dual purpose. First of all, it's to protect all this lot, and then it's to show us what other variants we have in the 132 scale series. So we've got a Tempest 2 that we've got here. We've got another high-tech kit, which is the Tempest 5. Okay, well, the Misterons have come back, look, so we'll have to be careful. There's that's a V1, I suspect, Doodlebug. There's a Bristol Mark 1, and that's checkers and stripes. That'd be an interesting paint job, wouldn't it? Look at that. There's a Fiat, a Block. There's a Seabull. I haven't heard of many of these aircraft. There's an early Cobra. There's a Western Whirlwind. That's little known. And a Super Mystier, and that's a dual pack and a book as well. So fantastic. They take every opportunity to try and sell you things as well. So, you know, buy what they say. Use this. I think what they mean is buy this. But there we are. Look, let's see if we can pull these off here. I just need to get a blade a minute. In fact, actually, we won't use a blade. We'll use these. It's not the right tool. I know. You're all saying that. Don't do that, Zinners, you foolish boy. What are you doing? I'll tell you what. We'll use these instead. That'll please people. So these are proper wire cutting cutters rather than the sort of cutters that you would use for your sprues, which have a different clearance angle on the blade and so on, and don't have hardened blades and such like. So I don't like these very much because they've got a clicky thing there which just gets in the way, which is a damn nuisance, quite frankly. So what we will do is we will use the tweezers for this, so we can draw that out there. There we go, put that down over there. And I didn't think I'd be taking staples out at this stage, but there we go. So we've got the number markings here, and these are just sticky backed plastic covers, and what we can see straight away is that was slightly sticky. I'm not going to take them out of the cover. So what we've got is, these are photo etch seat belts. So are they photo etch? Yes, they are photo etch. And I still don't know what that is. I've still no idea what this thing here is. That's going to be a mystery for a little while. I'm going to put that back in there like that. Some more decals here for HA557. That paper seems to be, that's quite stuck on there. That may have got damp at some stage by the look of it, so I'm not going to disturb that until I absolutely have to. It may I hope not, but it may become necessary to actually I'll move that out of the way because it will affect the white balance on the video. may end up having to do painted markings almost by default, and we'll see. So we'll just pull that. There's our piece of photo etch there, so we'll just put that away to one side down there for a second. I spent more time on this than I had anticipated, to be honest with you, because I'm now interested. Yeah, that comes away quite well, that's not a problem. And these are the decals for the rockets. If you want to fit rockets, I won't be fitting rockets for reasons that I will let you know in a second, or if you've read my my Substack piece already, you already know. But yeah, it does look as if these have got a bit damp at one stage or another, which, to be honest, I'm surprised at. Normally these paper masks come away quite easily, but that hasn't happened here. Now I was completely unaware of that, to be honest with you, but we'll put them back in the packets here and shut them up and put them away somewhere safe, shall we say. So we can put that perhaps over there. Look what I forgot. Right, what we'll do is I'm going to put that on the bottom of the box here, and I'll put that back in later on, because you don't want me to see me putting stuff back in the box. We've got some Checkmaster kits, cast resin product there, and we've got 2 bags of sprues. Now I don't know why they've done it this way, but this sprue here, which contains the spinner, the propeller blades, and the transparency as well as the cowlings, is separate, and the rest of them are all put together like this. And we will see, of course, that the wings, upper and lower, the lower wing is done in one piece, and the upper wing is in 2, obviously. So what we'll do is we'll just open that up quickly and then draw out. I'm going to draw out the lower wings and upper wings for you whilst we do that. So if you just dwell a pause of 2 marching paces whilst I do that, this will give us an opportunity to look at this in some more detail. And the first thing I feel is that it's not greasy in any way. It feels slightly sticky. For the first time ever, I may be inclined, or nearly the first time ever, I may be inclined to wash these sprue parts, because I can see on this some reflection, not of Mr-ons, but of smudging and marking on these. So I think I'm probably going to wash these, and we'll do that. But the plastic here it feels quite thick, and well, the ailerons, as you can see here, and the flaps are set in place. They're not separate at all, so you won't be able to put the flaps down. But I suspect, as with most British aircraft, the default position for the flaps when sat not in the air would have been up anyway. So there we are. I'll need to research more to see if there were flat down indicators, because being split flaps like these were on this aircraft, the pilot would not have been able to see over the top of the wing here and see that the flaps were down. So you would need to have some external indication, like on the Spitfire, where there was a pin that poked up around about there, to show the flaps were down, so that they poked up out into the ether, and also there would have been a light in the cockpit as well. We'll come to that in a minute. So let's now move on to the instructions, because this will give us some opportunity to pull out various bits of sprue and so on and so forth. So I'm going to put the box away over here so that I can reach it easily, and then we'll just open up the let's put that away there and that up there out of the way. As you can see, I've just spent some money on some Mr. Colour varnishes, 2 matte and 2 gloss, because they seem to go out of stock awfully quickly. Anyway, be that as it may. So let's get my poker here. I'll be needing that. We've got a history, and this is quite interesting. It has some nice detail on it. Talks about the Mark IIIs and the Mark IVs in one paragraph. It also has a few words about Sidney Cam, who was the chief designer for Hawker, somewhat after he joined Hawker as a draftsman or senior draftsman. But I mean, I've got a lot to say about Sidney Cam in my Substack article. I have a lot of time for the man, for lots of reasons, but there's a good amount of history in here which will allow you to start your research, but there's a lot of information about these, despite the fact there aren't very many of them around anymore. So let's have a look. Oh, what have we got here? Oh, we can be being sold things again. Here we are, look. So there's other Checkmaster kit sets for the Tempests of various marks. So you can get a pilot, you can get a pilot climbing in and out the cockpit, you can get a mechanic as well. Excellent. Also get a Type 1 Mark III, Mark V and late Typhoon gun sight. I think this one has a gyroscopic gun sight fitted, and there are things like the square tread pattern main wheels. I think these are what was called the anti-shimmy wheels. We'll take a look at them in a minute. And we've got a pilot's seat as well, which was slightly different from the Spitfire pilot seat, as we shall see. So first things first, there's a sprue call out. Now for people like me who are very new to these kits, there's a lot to see. I think it's worthwhile having a very good look at these. Perhaps not now, but we can, you know, as you build the kit, there's immediately you can see there's a lot of things that are not required for the Mark II, Tempest. As you all know, the Mark II Tempest was powered by a Bristol Centaurus radial engine, so it did away with the need for a chin scoop. So you've got 2 chin scoops, in fact 4 chin scoops here, which are not needed. Some radiator bits and pieces and so on. Also the Napier Sabre exhaust stubs here that won't be required. And various other greeblies here. You can see this gun sight here. So that, remember, that is the Mark V gun sight mounting. And this we can see is the radial engine here. So a word about the engine here, which is quite interesting to note. We'll come to this in a minute. Yeah, so I think we'll come to the engine in a minute. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And as you can see, the interior of the cockpit is probably going to be quite detailed, being as it has what you would expect in a 132 scale, the tubular metal frameworks onto which everything in the cockpit was pretty much built, and then there was a skin laid over the top. So this was the way that Hawker built their aircraft from the Hurricane forward. It was quite innovative, and an awful lot of this actually, by the way, was modular, in the sense that you could, if you wanted to replace, for example, a wing or a tail section or something like that, you could basically pick the wing off from the wing root, from its mountings, and then put a new wing on. You wouldn't have to repair the old wing and just possibly throw it away. I don't know whether that actually happened or not. I suspect it probably did. There's not really a lot of evidence to suggest that it did or it didn't. But anyway, we move on to the case sprue, which is the transparencies. You can see here they've even got the rockets here, so I probably won't use them. And then we've got what they're calling PUR parts. Excuse me. So these parts are the moulded resin parts. You've got 2 sets. You've got 2 options for wheels, and then you've got the laser cut belts here by the look of it. And the paint masks and a piece of, it's called film, and I'm not really sure, I'm still not really sure what it is. It says SH320054, I think, A and B, so I really don't know what that is. I'm going to have to look at that anyway. But let's leap into the instructions, shall we, and have a look at a bit of the plastic and see what we can make of it. So let's just, we'll zero in a little bit, and then I'll move this around because that's probably going to help, isn't it? We start off with split cockpit outers in terms of the fuselage outers here, and we start to add detail almost straight away, as you can see. There's the level of detail and instruction here is pretty good, I would say. You've got paint instructions in terms of what colours to paint here, and what additional colours you might care to paint these parts here. There are photo etch parts also to put in, I think perhaps it's worthwhile researching from the original documentation to see how this all fit together and what this looked like inside. I think we might be able to find something like that. With step 1 and step 2, you're doing these and quickly putting them aside, and then moving to steps 3 and 4. Let's see if we can just zero out just a little bit. That makes it easier, doesn't it? And we're looking at then the tubular constructions, the aluminium constructions here, for things like the elevator trim wheel here, throttle quadrant here, so you have the engine throttle and the mixture control there, and then various other things here which will probably be things like undercarriage levers and so on, and they sit onto these articles here. So that's the port side, what do we call it? The port side framework. The starboard side framework will contain radio equipment here, yes, undercarriage probably on starboard side, I would say, something along that line. I think that might be it there. Let's move that down a little bit so you can see that. So step 3 and step 4. We then move to step 5, which will be the pilot's seat back and bulletproof shield. So that would have been 3/4 of an inch tough steel, that sort of thing. More frameworks to be put together here, and more detailing. And then we move to the spade grip. So as you'll remember from my talking about the Spitfire here, the spade grip here moved independently from side to side, and there were some jockey wheels with cogs on them, and that drove the connecting wires into the jockeys down underneath the pilot's feet, so that when the spade grip went from side to side in this fashion, the ailerons would be operated, and obviously when the stick moved backwards and forwards like this, and this whole arrangement moved backwards and forwards, then that operated the elevators. So there we are. So assemble this in step 7, and then we have step 9 where we're looking at the control panel, the instrument panel, beg its pardon, and then we're into some more moulded, I seem to be having trouble speaking this night, don't I? More moulded resin parts here. I can see those in the box here. So what we'll do is we'll take a little look at that. If we can open this box up. So these contained in bags here. So we'll quickly look. I see there's one part here which is very thin. Let's see if we can find our it's probably going to be in here, so let's see if we can pull out the footrests. Yeah, so what we have is the machine gun ammunition boxes there. Those are them, and it's typical from what you would expect to see. Those are the bald wheels for landing on grass, I would suggest. That's, I think, a part of the undercarriage. There appears to be some sort of, might be flash, I suspect. Now, I thought there would be, oh, there they are. They're in the other bag. So the footrests for the pilot are there. They're nicely detailed, so they can be replacement parts there. Then we have in step 7, so yeah, those will be attached there, the spade grip and control levers, which even have the cables in them as well. You might want to perhaps replace the plastic parts with with thinner wire, perhaps something along that line. Oh, it's actually recommending wire 0.25 by 8.5 millimeters, so it's 0.25 diameter wire. Very nice little touch that. I think that's a lovely little touch. You can add additional detail onto this spade grip by adding in a stretch of wire there. So 0.25 copper wire would do it perfectly happily, because it would retain its shape quite easily. And you paint them in and away you go. So look, I think that's a really nice little touch there, and I'm beginning to be quite impressed by these this Special Hobbies kit, to be honest with you. Let's put these things back in here, and what we'll do is we'll put that away just quickly, and see what we can. There we go, that goes in there like that. Drop that in there. So, and then move on. We're then assembling in step 11 here, we're assembling the gun sight. So it's a gyroscopic gun sight, and then we're looking at using the step 9 control panel to put in decals for the blind flying controls. Remember, we spoke about those, and then these will likely be engine and fuel tank controls or instruments here, and then on this side there will be something else, probably to do with superchargers, boost control and things of that kind, but we know these to be blind flying controls. That was standard across all of the RF aircraft in the Second World War, and that includes, by the way, even the very early ones like the Gloucester Gladiator Mark II. The Mark I didn't have the blind flying controls, but the Mark II did. So at step 14 we're starting to really look at put all this lot together onto the frameworks, and this is quite a detailed framework when it's put together, and it's only at step 16 really, after some considerable while, that we start to look at the seats, and we have that photo etch, sorry, not photo etch, the resin seat. So we pull that seat out and have a look at that, and we might just zero right in on that so you can have a quick look at that. It's moulded pretty faithfully, quite honestly, and there's quite a lot of detail in amongst that one can look at. I think that we've still got some good detail coming from the moulders of resin, but they have some stiff competition, I suspect, from the 3D printers. I would imagine everybody would probably agree with me on that one, but I quite like that. That's a nice looking piece of kit, that, and this is one of the extras you get for paying a little bit extra for the kit, or when you get a high-tech variant. Didn't realise this when I bought it, but there we are. So we're then into the belts. They are PE belts, but look, we have to use them, and we'll make the best of it, won't we? We'll do the best we can. Now we're back into fitting the seat here. The seat goes on, all of the cage work goes together, and then we've got control instruments going in, and we're about ready to start at step 22, putting the whole thing together. So we'll want to put together the rear undercarriage well here. So the Tempest had a retractable rear wheel, so that was quite common on the later aircraft. In particular, we'll know that the Mark 12 Spitfires and the Mark 9s and 8s, I think, had retractable undercarriage, and to say most of the later Second World War aircraft had them. We're then moving down towards the engine now. So the engine is something I did want to take a look at. So we'll pull that out as one of the sprues here, which I did see, because the remarkable thing, and the thing that's worth knowing about the, one second while I just pull that part out, the thing worth knowing about the Tempest Mark II was that the engine was very closely cowled. Now, what this means is that to an even greater extent than, for example, the Focke-Wulf FW190, it's actually very difficult to see any detail in round the spinner and in behind to the engine. So the engine that you have in this is just a little panel, like that with no back. It's exactly the same in some sense as the Focke-Wulf FW190, the 701, the BMW 701 engine. So it works in exactly the same manner. And there's really very little to see here in terms of overall detail. I'm not going to expend a lot of effort in this because we could squint for, quite frankly, hours to try and make this to make this work. But I think it's effort best spent elsewhere, to be honest with you. But what we will do is paint it, colour it, I'll weather it a little bit, and so on and so forth, and make sure it looks as good as it can possibly do. And there we are. We're then into the position of looking at whether you want to cut into the wings to expose the machine guns. Well, machine guns, they're Hispano cannons. There were two variants depending upon which mark of Tempest you had. They had either the long barreled cannons or the short barreled, and much of the steps from 26 to really 32 here are involved with using the photo etch components for the Hispano cannons for one side or the other, so there's a lot of work in doing this, and you've got a very good opportunity, quite frankly, to make a top job of this, to make this look really very good, if you want to. And I'm in two minds as to whether I will. I'm inclined to not do this. The reason being that I have the idea that I will make PR533, which is a restored aircraft. It's the only one that's flying in the world at the moment, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm not going to need these. Now, I could, on the other hand, of course, keep this and perhaps use it as a second machine gun or a cannon bay on a further Tempest that I do, and I might then do a Tempest Mk2, for example, with the Hispano cannons, and make them with both machine gun bays open, perhaps do maybe in a diorama. But these are some of the choices that you have if you wanted to go down this road. So you can build this up. Here's this all being built up here. This section, by the way, is building up the undercarriage. So the undercarriage, a bit like the Hurricane, the undercarriage folded towards the centre of the aircraft, upwards and inwards like this, and this meant that the trolley, if you like, the distance between the undercarriage wheels was as wide as it could be. This made this an easier aircraft to land than the very narrow trolley of the Spitfire, for example. So there we go. Here we are adding more detail into these undercarriage wells. Looking at the pictures that I've seen on the internet of these, there's not an awful lot of detail to add in here, and I think the resin parts will make it look pretty good all on its own. So that's pretty good. And as you often see in radial engined aircraft being modelled, and it's exactly the same as the Hasegawa 132 scale FW190, the fuselage splits just forward of the engine bulkhead. So this is the engine bulkhead and firewall, behind which there was a fuel tank, and underneath which and inside of which is the pilot's compartment. So having manufactured your engine, step 25, the fuselage, step 22, step 27, 28, for the tail planes and rudder and so on and so forth, and then step 33 for your wings here. And these are what's called laminar flow wings. They're nearly elliptical, not quite. And then adding in the radiators and so on, which were both sides here, an oil cooler, so radiator that side, oil cooler that side. But since this was an air-cooled engine, this was there for some other purpose. Ask me what, I couldn't tell you. So once you're here, you're into a position where you have an aircraft in your hands, really, to some extent. And then we're on to some extent final details, really, in almost all cases here. There's quite a lot of small detail stuff to do, things like your undercarriage, selecting of your wheels, whether you use anti-shimmy or the grass track tyres. It would be entirely down to you whether you do one or the other. and then adding some details. So clear green on the that would be the starboard side light, running light. The port side one would be red. Remember, there is always a little red port left after dinner. That's the way you remember that the red light goes on the port side. Yeah, so we're into wheels there at step 41, and then we're moving very quickly towards underwing fuel tanks via the undercarriage addition, by the way. So we have to make sure we get all this quite correct. Adding in the windshield here. As I say, then we're very much into underwing fuel tanks. If you're doing a restored aircraft like me, you won't need that. You won't need the bombs. Some of these other bits and bobs here, you'll need pitos and various things of that kind. But that this takes a lot of effort away, not having to manufacture bombs, and there's either that and rockets as well. So the Mark II did have hard points on the wings for rockets, as you will know. And then we're into really the final parts here, fitting on the spinner and propeller, putting the canopy on, and putting on the that's the trim panel for the ailerons. So there would have been two trim panels here, I think. One is a trim panel to allow the aircraft to be trimmed in the rolling plane. So if this is the aircraft moving backwards and forwards, the rolling plane is that plane, the pitching plane is this one forward to aft, and the yawing plane is the rudder one. So if you can trim the aircraft in three dimensions, as it were, it's easier to control. But there will also be a contra moving panel on these ailerons, I suspect, in the sense that if the aileron moved up, this panel was geared to move down, and so on the other way around, like that. Now the reason for that was that this deflection, this opposite deflection of this tiny panel on the rear side of the aileron, made moving the aileron off the straight when you were moving very fast much easier. It acted almost like a power steering. A very useful little feature. You'll see it on the Mustang. You'll see it on the Corsair, you'll see it on other high-performance Second World War aircraft as well. But it was discovered that this made the pilot's job somewhat easier because, well, actually, when you're flying very fast with no power steering, as it were, or power assistance, it's difficult to move that control column sometimes. On my Substack, I relate a short story about Captain Eric Winkle Brown, who reported something similar to that. At that point being done, we are there at the end. We'll be down to paint schemes. I have chosen to do PR533, and this is shall we say, a bare metal finish. I'll use the Tamiya AS12, I think it is, and then the polished aluminium paint, this AK stuff in mixture. That worked really well for me for the Mustang, but I shall cover off with this particular scheme here. I think that's a very nice looking scheme for the Tempest, and nods to the only flying example, as it were, right now. There are other options that you have. Royal PAF, Royal RPAF, I don't know who that is, I must be honest with you, forgive my most lamentable ignorance about these things. You've got colour call-outs, which are quite detailed and so on, but oh, there goes the poker. And the final one, which is the other one that I can't think about who this might be, maybe the Royal Italian Air Force, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it could be, it might not be, it probably isn't actually, and you're all there laughing at stupid old sinners, aren't you? Anyway, be that as it may, I would have to conclude on first glance that this is a really quite special kit. The instructions are good, they're detailed, they supply extra information that's useful, particularly in relation to the spade grip that we talked about, and adding in this detail here. I think that's a really nice touch. I think the instructions are easy to follow. They look a bit busy in places, but I think that's okay. That's not really a problem in the grand scheme of things. and so I would, in the words of Steve's Vintage Model Builds, give this top marks. I'm not in the habit of marking my kit reviews in that sense, but I'm quite impressed with this. And this is shiny paper, but I don't think that's too much of an issue. I've affected the light such that we don't get a problem there. But no, I think this is really very good. I'm most impressed, I have to say. I think this will build up into a very nice looking kit, and a very nice looking aircraft. I look forward to doing this at some stage, and also finding out a little bit more about the Tempest series myself. So anyway, here we are. We've got to the end of the kit review, and I hope that it's been useful for you. It's 40 minutes of listening to me jabber away, but there we go. I'm hopeful that you'll write some comments. Let me know what you think. If you feel that there's something I've missed, then do please let me know. I'm always happy to hear from you. In the meanwhile, I shall say thank you very much until the next time when I return to the Canberra. I'm waiting for some lead weight at the moment, and that seems to be taking a devil of a long time to arrive, but there we go. I shall return to the Canberra, and let me just give a quick call out actually to the most excellent Hobby Time, who talks and is very helpful on his offer to me to give me a specially made canopy for the Canberra, because the Canberra variant I was doing, and this is a digression, I know, I must apologise for this, but the Canberra variant I was doing is, I think, a Mk2, and it didn't have two of these little plain sight windows. It only had one. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I've got Hobby Time's excellent offer of a free one of these in the background. I'll have a go at see if I can take this off. So I used one of these glass files, which are particularly good for this kind of thing, and rubbed this off, and it's left the slightest of marks. So what I will then do is use a 6000 and 8000 grit sanding pad, and I'll just polish that away, because that marking there, and I can get in quite close to this for you, that little marking there will completely disappear under that. So I probably won't need to take up the excellent Hobby Time on his very, very kind offer, and I'm very much obliged to him for that, because I've managed to create a solution for this. But I wanted to give him a little shout out, because he deserves that, I think, for making his very generous and unasked for offer, and I'm hopeful that that he will be suitably impressed by my solution to the problem of having only one plain view window in the Canberra Mk2. Anyway, that's that for now. I'm off, and I'm off to do some more modelling on some other things, other projects and such like. And I'll wish you all the very best, and thank you very much for tuning in once again and coming to visit Zinner's in Modelling Land. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, and take care until then. So bye for now.